Hello and welcome to another episode of My Unpopular Opinions. There is still no logo. Maybe at some point there will be one. I don't really know. So today I want to talk about the big D, but not the fun one. So I want to talk about depression, and the reason why I'm joking about it now, because clearly the topic is not funny at all, is that I just hopefully out of a depressive episode. It's the second day of me actually feeling things again. And I think something that might be helpful sometimes when you deal with depression is actually being able to make fun of it. Um, Definitely was not able to do this a week ago. So for me, depression has been a part of my life for a really long time. I don't even know how many years now. Uh, but I didn't even know it because in some places, you are not really allowed to be diagnosed with it. And it's pretty fucked up, but it's true. Same goes for anxiety. I've had anxiety my whole life. Like my heart used to be racing all the time since I was a child. And nobody could diagnose anything because my heart was quite all right, and nobody knew what anxiety was. And even those who did, the doctors, they were just not allowed because Eastern Europe, there is no such thing as depression or anxiety. So for me, it kind of became my normal heart rate. Like I remember whenever like my blood pressure would go down, and my parents had this like electronic device that would measure your blood pressure. Like my heart rate would be like 120, 140, and apparently it's very high. For me, it was like kind of normal. One time, um I could not have my cardiogram done because of how fast my heart was racing. They were literally like, I cannot do that. You have to come another time. Um, so I'm really used to things without having a name for them, without having the tools to deal with them. And it really has not been fun. So me now trying to make fun of it is actually a huge win. With depression, oh my God. I mean, I've had it for at least 10 years, but probably way, way longer than that. And I finally learned the term clinical depression 6 years ago. And I learned the term high functioning depression like a few days ago. So, of course, I knew what depression was years ago, but when you grow up and live in the place where you're not allowed to experience those things, and there is a huge stigma on mental health, and antidepressants are considered some like even worse than other drugs. um you think that, yeah, if somebody has an actual mental disorder, then they are fucking psychos. And unless you have schizophrenia, you don't really get diagnosed with anything where I'm from. um so it was very shameful to talk about, you know, mental health and struggles. And instead of hearing back, like, oh, okay, you're probably tired, you have to rest, you would just hear the opposite things, like, oh, you're just not occupied enough, you just have too much free time on your hands. No, I'm not. That's not true. I'm working overtime. I don't go out, I don't have fun. No, the answer is not to be working even more than that. Like, what? But yeah, growing up in Eastern Europe kind of like uh, doesn't really mm, shape you in the best ways sometimes, because if the most common saying for romantic relationships is if he beats you then he loves you, and there are still lots of women who believe that, and women are not protected from abuse, and violence. Same goes for mental health as well, and you kind of grow up believing these things, and it's not that you often have an opportunity to learn to question them, unfortunately. I did start questioning these things, and um, 6 years ago, I had already been in a terrible burnout for 2 or 3 years, and I still don't think that I have ever fully recovered from it. And I knew what depression was, but even trying to get an appointment with a psychotherapist was like very, very shameful. It's like even if you call the doctor to talk about it, it's like something is very, very wrong with you. So I actually learned the term clinical depression from a British person who just said it out loud. And I'm like, what the fuck does clinical mean? I mean, depression, yeah, I mean, like, that's the word we know, but what the fuck does clinical mean? Like, do you have to go to the clinic? What is that? So I Googled it, and I just felt very, very seen, because I was just matching everything, which pushed me to go to mental clinic. And now, 6 years later, I know that things are changing. People talk more about taking antidepressants. People are learning more about therapy and are doing therapy more. But 6 years ago, back there, it was something like completely unusual. So I realized that there was no way I could help myself. I had been living in that state for years. I had been trying my best. I have been on self development, self improvement, self help journey for years. I had some tools, and some of them were helping, but that was not enough. And I realized that there was no way for me to get out of it by myself. Like, I could not function at all. So I admitted myself to the institution, and well, it was great. It was surprisingly very, very well organized, and it was also free, because in some countries healthcare is kind of free. um, every day was scheduled not by a minute but basically by an hour. It's not that you had to join every single activity, but I there was a part of me that was not able to function anymore, and yet there was also a part of me that was determined to, like, to drag myself out of there, to pull myself up somehow. So when I got there, I was willing to participate in every single activity. And we would wake up at, I think, 8 a.m. in the morning, and then we would have like a light um, workout first. Then we would do a breathing relaxation. So most of the activities were called relaxation, but soon after that, I realized and learned that they were actually basically meditations. But meditation is not exactly a medical term, especially in Eastern Europe. So it doesn't matter how you call it, but it does work. We were scanning our bodies. We were working out very lightly. We were relaxing through music, through aromatherapy. Um, I started doing therapy I did therapy 3 times a week, which was very intense, but had a very, very positive outcome for me. We did group therapy as well. We did some like practices when you like visualize things and stuff, and then the therapists would explain to us what that meant, which I feel is also not exactly just a medical thing. It is also widely used in spiritual practices, so I was very surprised about that, because, well, spirituality is kind of a thing, but not really a thing, like both at the same time in Eastern Europe. So that was really great. I started taking antidepressants, and they were kicking in, and I was probably very lucky um, to have like the first antidepressant that was prescribed to me. It was actually working, because it's very common for people to figure out to not be a match and just to try different things before something really works. For me, it was pretty lucky because the first one worked on me. And um, the thing was that at first, things were actually getting worse. Once I started the treatment, it felt like things were just really getting even harder than they already were. And I was sharing a room with 3 other ladies, and there was a lady who was snoring extremely loudly. The beds are very, very loud. So one night I woke up and I got terrified. I don't know, like, did I really wake up or was I half asleep? I don't even know what was happening. I was convinced that I was having hallucinations, because, like, the noise from the beds, and those were like kind of old Soviet beds or Soviet style beds. Maybe they were not exactly from more than 30 years ago, but they were exactly the same kinds of beds. And if you're from Eastern Europe, you know what I mean. And they were so extremely loud that I was convinced that there was something else happening. And it all seemed very, very vivid. And hallucinations can be a side effect of antidepressants. And I just got so fucking terrified until I figured out that it was just the bed of my roommate. And that was a huge relief, but it took a lot of time to figure that out. It was very challenging because there were also some people there who were not really easy to be around, and I felt very triggered. And before things were getting better, they were getting worse, which is not something that you really expect. So that was very scary. Um, but they started getting better, and to be honest, the best time I had where I'm from was at that institution. Yes, the nut house is my happy place back home. And it is true. So to be honest, it makes absolutely perfect sense why I would have depression. But the question was, how do I help myself? What do I do? Especially since just getting out of toxic environments was not happening for me. No matter how hard I tried, I just kept failing. And I think one of the important things is that though depression can be possibly genetic and there can be many different reasons why you can have depression, I think in my case, and in case for many people too, that would be as well true, that it is the environment you're in, and it is important to get out of that environment. And if we talk about toxic family and something that is not so easy to get out of, I think it's important to find a way to take some space and take some time to figure out the tools and coping mechanisms that will be healthy for you, not the ones that just come up and become toxic patterns of self-destruction, which often happens to us naturally, and figure out how you can handle those situations better later on. um, I saw a video from Jim Carrey talking about depression, and I love Jim Carrey. He's like my favorite comedian. The first movie I remember watching ever in my life was The Mask. I absolutely loved his movies as a child. I think he's very talented, and somehow it was surprising for me to find out that he's also very intelligent. But as I was growing up, growing older, I started to realize that the people who are the funniest are also like the most intelligent ones, because you can make fart and sex jokes. It's not hard, but to make good comedy, it's impossible to do it without intellect. It's always very smart and intelligent, even if it's the dumbest jokes. Sometimes, like, the dumbest jokes are like the most like intelligent ones. And as someone who is kind of trying to process life through comedy, yeah, that's been a good inspiration for me. So what he was talking about in that interview, it was depression. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said that the opposite of depression is expression. And it just like made perfect sense to me, because I grew up being suppressed from a very young age. I was not allowed to really be a child who just does stupid things, or is loud, or like playful, or throws things around, and just does things and explores the environment around them, not even just the world in a bigger sense of it. So that was making sense. I also grew up in a dictatorship where like you don't know what freedom is, and many parts of your life are really controlled, and you're just not even aware that there are other ways of doing things. And in my personal case, my family was even a small dictatorship within a bigger one. So it absolutely makes sense why I would be suppressed since the very young age. I was a very convenient child. I was a fucking perfect child. Like, I would say that my parents did an amazing job at suppressing me. Like, sometimes I would cry, of course. I would never be loud. I would never get into any verbal fights with them. I didn't even have my puberty until my mid 20s. Not the physical one, not physiological one, but emotional one. Because I couldn't even dare to potentially speak up to my parents. That was weird, but it has to happen. And well, if you're planning on having kids or anything, just you have to allow it to happen when it happens, because well, now I'm not talking to my parents. It's been a few years. I'm not in touch with them anymore. Just as soon as I could finally physically distance myself, I I don't even know if I ever will talk to them again. So, depression and expression. I feel like this is so true, and it's such a simple thing that you don't even have to be a creative person who needs to express themselves creatively. But if you are, then it's going to be killing you for sure if you are not able to express yourself. But it also comes to literally anything, like your opinions, your emotions, your authenticity. So if you are not expressing yourself, it all just gets buried inside of you, and it's not gone. It's just gonna be, rotting there and destroying you from the inside. And it comes both for the positive and negative emotions and feelings that you have. If we think that, okay, like, it's not nice if you are angry or like cry too much or whatever, and you bury these feelings, it's bad. But burying the positive ones has the same effect as well. Like if you're not allowed to laugh, to smile, to express your happiness and joy, it also has a very negative effect on you. So growing up and living in the environment where I could not express even my emotions, and on top of that, as a creative person, my creativity, no wonder I have been depressed my whole life. So now I'm still trying to fix that about me, and I try to unlearn this lack of expression, and I allow my emotions to come out. And it doesn't necessarily have to always be very loud and explicit, but I don't judge myself, and I provide myself the safe space that I didn't have growing up. I feel the emotions, and again, you don't always have to really like express them explicitly. um, and I just acknowledge them and I sit with them. And of course it's nice to sit with the happiness, but I also sit with the hard ones. And it's very tough, and that's something that many people are really avoiding. But the only way out is through. You cannot be a hostage of your unprocessed emotions. And recently, I also saw a sentence about trauma. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something about trauma is not the event that happened to you, it's the space you didn't have to feel your emotions towards the event. And it does make perfect sense. And having a safe space to allow any kinds of emotions that come up is the most important thing for us. And I do believe that if that didn't happen naturally to us growing up, it doesn't have to define the rest of our lives. We can always change that. We can also step in and take that role of the caretaker and allow ourselves and hold ourselves and give ourselves the love and the acceptance that we didn't receive when we needed it. It's never too late to do that. So, back to the mental institution. Um, One of the thoughts I was having there, and even though there were some annoying people, for example, we had hypnosis as well there. So also, is it medical? Is it spiritual? Is what is it? But it was really nice, and there was this lady that was showing up late to things, and I was just so annoyed because I was so determined to, like, to give my all to help myself heal and to make myself feel better. And it felt like she was interrupting me, so I was really annoyed at her. And I was talking about it to my therapist, and I don't even remember exactly what my therapist said, but like, yeah, it's not that she really interrupts my healing. It's just a trigger. And the fact is that I also don't allow myself to be late. Yeah, I guess that was what she said to me. And since it was just the beginning of my experience in doing therapy, it was like a huge insight because I would encounter so many different behaviors from people that would just piss the hell out of me. And then I would just realize I just am so annoyed because I don't allow myself to do that. As simple as that. And when I started actually practicing it, I'm like, okay, this is the behavior that annoys me. And at first I think that I would never do that. Let's try to do that. Let's try to do that and let's see how it feels. And then I would allow myself to do that, and it just wouldn't annoy me from other people anymore because I just know, oh, I can do that too. And it actually is not that evil. Okay. Yeah. Another thought that I had while there, so everybody had depression in the ward. And I think also, like, because it was the same building as where the psychiatric patients were with schizophrenia and all the other, like, really big things. We were on a different floor, but it was still the same building, and it was just like the only clinic. So like mentioning it to someone that, oh, I was there, I stayed there, it was also very like pretty shameful. But I honestly, I didn't give a shit because it was helping me. And I don't care if it makes someone uncomfortable that I was depressed and that was seeking treatment and that I started taking antidepressants. I don't give a shit about the stigma, about the judgment, because it worked, and that's the only thing that matters to me. So one of the other thoughts that I had there was that it would be so much better if, as maybe we are all highly sensitive and we end up having depression and being there, it would be so much nicer if we just could live isolated from the rest of the people who hurt us. And it kind of made sense because even when that lady who was always late, she stopped annoying me, I was like, yeah, like we can just live like that in a, in a little like group of people who understand each other and understand each other's struggles. But my therapist said that no, you have to go out there and you have to learn how to cope better with the world. And she was right. And she was right. And it was probably the moment that my life really changed after I started getting into remission after years of suffering and struggling and having panic attacks. Couple years before that, when I could not even go to sleep, I for a few nights in a row I would just have tremor in my arms and legs, and I was like literally like for around a week I was feeling like I was just gonna die, and it just was not really going away. And at night when like my limbs were like shaking, it was so terrifying. And on the third night after the sleep, after no sleep, uh, yeah, my mom called the ambulance, and they still never called it what it was. And I was prescribed lots of pills. None of them were working, but there was just one pill that was luckily helping me with my heart rate because my heart was just racing constantly, even more than usual. Um, so yeah, there were many, many situations when there were medical workers involved, and no one would ever even possibly suggest that the things I was dealing with had something to do with mental health. So going into remission was a really great moment. Uh, Life felt great. Some amazing things started happening to me. I still don't know, but the next 3 months after I got out of the institution, they were truly magical. There were lots of very magical things happening to me. I started meditating more. The antidepressants were kicking in. I traveled. I fell in love. There were some really great things happening, and I'm still trying to crack the code. What was that? Because it's not that I was just feeling better, and it's not just the antidepressants and therapy and everything else. It just happened that life suddenly was compensating on 20, what how old was I? 26, 27 years of shit. It just was compensating on it in like 3 months. And I really don't still don't understand the connection, but yeah, life felt great. And my only goal in life at that point was not to buy a house, not to have a fancy car, not any of the material things. My only dream and goal was to never ever go back into that darkness again. And what I didn't know is that I would go back, or it would come back, whatever the phrasing is, that I would experience it again, and way sooner than I thought. Um, I think part of the reasons was that once those 3 months were over, something in the universe clicked again, or maybe probably because that I had to go back to the toxic place that was causing the depression in the first place, and big and small things. But I also stopped taking antidepressants because everything felt so great, and it was, let's also be honest, an extra expense that I also was feeling like I'd rather not spend money on. But it also felt like I was consistently feeling good for long enough. It was not a year as like the protocol was saying, but yeah, I had some other things to deal with, and well, few months later, I had to get back to the to antidepressants, and also had sleeping pills, because it got even worse than it used to be. And again, if to look at the things that were happening in my life, that would make total sense. But it also, it's not about blaming the circumstances and other people. It's taking charge and trying to fix the way I was feeling. Because also, in order to fix those external factors, I needed to be able to deal with them from the inside, and I was not. So that's how I learned that it's very likely. Let's be a little bit optimistic here, and not say that it's for sure coming back, but it is very likely to come back. So while it's gone, I'm more aware of it now, and I just try to cherish the times once it's not here, being fully aware that it might come back. And I mean, in the modern world, how can we not be depressed? Am I right? It's really crazy. It's really scary. It's impossible to plan anything. Things are falling apart more globally now. I think 6 years ago, it was more common for people to have stability in their life. Not in my case. I'm one of the first ones to experience the terrible, terrible instability of the world. Apparently, I don't know. I see that people start relating to me more and more, um, to how I was feeling years ago, which is not great, of course. But what I figured out for myself, it's important not to be hiding. And it might be bad. You might feel really, really bad and really, really down. And sometimes even taking a shower is something, it is the goal for the day that you might not be able to achieve. Even doing grocery shopping, and maybe even just eating food. It might happen, but I feel like I always was starting to feel better once I was fully accepting it, once I was allowing it to be there, and that there probably was a reason why it was back, and the reason was not necessarily always external. Well, I never run out of external reasons to be depressed, but I was just trying to let it in, because I knew that it would not go away if I just tried to ignore it. And not immediately, but I can see that once I was just allowing it to be there, and I was just accepting, I'm like, okay, well, you're here, just next to me on my bed, on my couch, anywhere I go or don't go, because you don't really go anywhere much. Sometimes when it's back, it was always starting to lift once I fully allowed it to be there. And it was not comfortable. It was not nice, and it's like you're just not feeling anything, and it's really tough. And I I don't know. I think maybe because it has been back so many times, I'm now fully aware that it will be back again. And whenever it happens, it's just, well, it's back. It's back. What is there that I can do to help myself? And recently, I learned the term high functioning depression. I was like, what? What is that? What does it mean? I mean, yeah, it's functioning pretty high, and I'm like very low. It works for it, not for me. But apparently, I also have been having a high functioning depression because for most of my life and me battling with it, people would not be able to tell that I have been struggling because I have been masking it. I have been still successful at things. I would still go through things. I would still achieve things. I would still show up. And sometimes it would make me feel way worse because I don't really have energy to be doing things. And somehow I'm pushing through. And very finally, I think it is at the same time something that can help you get out, and it's something that keeps you in the loop. I mean, it's kind of true. Because, for example, I think the best writings that I have ever written, they have never come from a happy place. Sometimes maybe I wrote them when I was in a better place, but they were all inspired and brewing from the depth of my suffering. So as, as an artist, as a creative person, I'm not gonna lie, I also have been romanticizing depression sometimes, because indeed some really beautiful things have come out from the struggles. And um, even though I just have learned this term like last week, I have been realizing that I don't really look how I feel. I just, um, I still look nice. I still put on my makeup. There are some people who are not into makeup, and even when they're like in a good mood or in a good place, they still don't look as dressed up as I do when I'm actually depressed. So, yeah, of course, like there are days when I don't dress up at all, I don't put any makeup, and I look not great at all, but these are also the days where I kind of hide. So it's not that people really see me. I don't know what it is. Because it's not exactly true that if you are depressed, you will look like shit at all times. That's not true. Depression doesn't have a face, and there are lots of people who look amazing and better than an average person who are going through so much hell deep inside of them that you wouldn't even want to imagine what it feels like. And uh, there are also lots of posts online about people quitting the game of life, and that was absolutely unexpected to those around them, because just the day or on the day or just an hour before it happened, they looked like they were totally fine. So please do not assume that if somebody's um, looking great and laughs and smiles, especially if they have some objective reasons to struggle and you are aware of those reasons, it does not mean that those reasons are not affecting them. And sometimes it can happen that you might not be aware. So, like, depression does not look like shit. Sometimes some people do look like shit because of depression, but that's not a universal thing. Because I still looked like this while struggling to function, and most people wouldn't be able to tell. And I think it is important to speak up. And it's great if you have your support system, that you have, I don't know, family, friends, partner, therapist, whoever, whatever, people you can trust, and you can talk to them and they will be there for you, and they can spot when your like mental state goes down, and they will be there to support you, and they know how to support specifically you. um, but especially if you don't have that support system, or it's not efficient enough for you, it's super important to speak up. It's really important to lay it out there and be honest, even if you don't look like shit but you feel like shit. You have to do it, because there is no way for you to get out of it if you're completely by yourself. And sometimes you can receive help and support from the people you didn't expect to, and they're not always the closest people to you. And sometimes people who are your friends and support you when you're in a better state are not able to be there for you when you're in a worse state. But I feel like one of the reasons of depression is also that we just don't have enough, emotional safety around people, and we just cannot be fully ourselves, and we don't have people to talk to and to be listened to, and for someone to hold space to us for us. And sometimes when we are going through some event that might be very challenging for us emotionally, just someone to be there with us. It's not even important that this person says something or gives us advice or fixes the situation. Just for someone to be there, just sit next to us, be in the same room, it really has a profound effect. And if we don't have people like that in our lives, it can cause like a really, really bad um, reaction, and it can really cause the development of depression, and the belief that we don't deserve to have support or love or whatever. And even though while you're actively depressed, it's very difficult to ask for help, I would say please make sure to take care of it, and just be vocal about it. There might be acquaintances that would actually love to jump in and just to help you with something very small that can make a really big difference. So what I started doing is, during a really, really challenging period of my life, like I honestly don't know how I have made it through winter this year, I just started posting about it. Um, and I know that some people were not very comfortable with that, but good for them that their lives are so perfect, and they either have the support system or don't have depression, whatever. But it has been very helpful for me to just put it out there because, again, number one, it's expression. I expressed it, and sometimes even just talking and saying things out. This is how therapy often works. It's not always about the tools, it's just about having a person being there and just saying things out loud and letting them out of your system. So I started posting about my struggles. And first of all, I started getting responses, and mostly from the people who were not my close friends or even friends. I would call them acquaintances, that they relate to it and that they support me. And like if I need something, I could reach out. So that was really nice to find out and to learn and to have that. But I also noticed that when I even pointed out my terrible anxiety, social anxiety, performance anxiety, it was the same day that I had an improv class. And suddenly, like this stress and fear I've had for a long time, it just wasn't there anymore. I'm like, I don't even know how that works, but just putting it out there, it just kind of fixed it in a way. It didn't make it go away completely, but it was not as big as strong anymore for sure. So one of the tools that I kind of figured out for myself um, during the pandemic was that we really need to talk to someone, and talking to someone does not necessarily even mean to have someone present in a call or in person. um, I met a really good friend during the pandemic, and it was like a long distance friendship. And what we ended up doing was just recording each other's audio messages, like sharing some of our personal struggles or like emotions that we were dealing with. And it was helpful, just like letting it out by using your voice, and knowing that somebody will listen to it and probably respond, because we were doing that too. Like what I noticed, and then my friend noticed, we both noticed that, oh, just letting it out, I already have a solution. I don't even need someone to help me with the solution. I already feel lighter, I already feel better. So it was really working, and I don't know, I just somehow knew that that would help and that would work, and that's what we were doing. We I think we had a proper call like once, outside the times when we spend time in person. We still do audio messages, and then whenever it is convenient for the other person to focus on the messages and be able to at least respond somehow, just by like acknowledging it, again, not necessarily giving a solution or advice, it works. And it's good because not everybody can be fully present immediately when you need them. So that is a really great tool. And I think it's also, if you are aware that you have depression and that it probably is going to come back, it's nice to also kind of take care of that before it is back, so you kind of like padding it for yourself. Yeah. And sometimes you will see how it's gradually coming back, and sometimes it might hit you kind of seemingly out of nowhere. And the most important thing is to not be judgmental of yourself. If you're not able to go through with some plans and commitments that you made when you were feeling better, it is okay. It really is okay. The judgment, the negative self-talk is not going to help you at all, that's for sure. It's only going to make it worse. But like recently, I was like last week, I was on the way to do an open mic, and it was it was good for me to do it, but I just was feeling so low that I was like, I just don't want to go there. I just don't want to. I haven't even learned my set by heart properly because I'm too exhausted. And I was texting a friend on my way there on a tram, and uh I was just like, I just need a lot of love now, because I've been in this depressive episode for a couple weeks, and I'm just like, what's gonna help me? What's gonna work? Because it's just too much. And then I realized that, and I texted that, and I just started crying right on the tram, which actually gave me a post cry glow up, because somehow you do look better after you cry. So feel free to cry if you feel like crying, and even if in public places, it's totally fine. And also some mental clarity, because one of the signs of depression is also not able to cry. And it happened to me more than once, when for months I would just need to cry, and it just was not happening. Like I would ask people around me, please make me cry. I'll not make it personal, whatever. I will not take it personal. I just need these fucking tears to get out of my eyes. So yeah, crying is good. And though at that moment I felt like I could not give much love to myself and I had to seek it outside of me. uh I was asking my friends like, hey, I really need, like, can we spend some time together? I'm feeling very low. Can we do something together? Can, like, whatever. Some people were not always available, but the others were. And gradually it was going away. And now that I'm feeling better, I feel like, okay, I can actually give myself love. And it doesn't mean that depression is not going to come back. But maybe next time that it does, I will kind of be a little bit better prepared. Maybe not, because it's not like every time it's always the same. But it is very important, definitely very important, not to only take care of, like, what can help you once it comes in terms of communication and emotional support, but also make sure that you eat right. I know it's basic, but I was not eating well for like 6 months. I was not cooking anything. I was just like eating whatever, like, processed food was easy to get, because I was too exhausted to even think about cooking or doing proper groceries so I can cook something out of it. I was not able to. And it was tough, and I realized that I was definitely also lacking nutrients. And while lacking nutrients is probably not the main reason why I have depression, because again, like, oof, my life gives like a million reasons to be depressed. And to be honest, I think I'm actually doing pretty well for all the reasons to be depressed that I have. But it is important to make sure that your diet is balanced, that you move your body, and is not necessary to go like hardcore on working out, but doing some simple exercises every day. If you don't always go out of the house, like sit ups, stretching, something very, very simple and basic, it is gonna make a difference. If it becomes your routine, it's gonna be helpful, because again, depression is in your mind. And even when you're just ruminating on some thoughts and when you are very anxious, getting back into your body is helpful. And I also recommend somatic experience kind of therapy, because I have done talk therapy, which was great, and I identified lots of things. But indeed, I feel like I've been disconnected from my body. So now I'm also focusing on that. And as to my point from before of sending audio messages to a friend with consent, obviously, not everybody can handle that, of course. What I started doing, um, because the point here is not just have someone else to receive your messages, it's like, or your thoughts or whatever is boiling there, it's to express it. So you can do just like talking to yourself. Like if you're uncomfortable, can be at home in your room, whatever, and just start talking about these things as if you were talking to a friend or to a therapist. It does have a certain positive effect. What I started doing as well was um, like recording video messages to myself. Sometimes I would do them when I was feeling really great. I was feeling great. I was very happy. Like 6 years ago, when I had those 3 magical months of the whole universe conspiring into my favor, I recorded myself messages because I knew that's not gonna last. This is very unusual. And then I started doing the same when I was feeling very low, and just telling myself, like, talking to my best friend, because, well, if I'm not my best friend, who can really be there for me? I'm the only person who's there with me at all fucking times, the good and the bad, and the ugly and the beautiful. So I started recording myself those video messages, and as much as it does not solve the problem, it does not miraculously let depression go away, it does help. And it basically has a similar effect as to therapy and as to having somebody else listen to you and be there for you. And after all, as I say in all my videos, like your most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. And even though it might be really hard to show up for yourself when you feel very low, you absolutely can be one of the parts of your own support system. You really can. I'm telling you from experience. Maybe nobody has told you that, so now I'm telling you that. Well, I guess 55 minutes is kind of a good time to wrap it up. So, yeah, please feel that you're not alone. I think the thing that makes us feel the worst during depression is the belief that we are alone and there is no one there to understand us and to accept us. That is not true. Be there for you. Be that person who shows up for yourself even when it's really hard. Ask for help. Be vocal about it. Don't suffer in silence. And share your tools, your experiences. Let's make the comment section a safe place. Maybe that's also the place where you can just express it, and it can be a first step or one of the steps for you to be releasing things that are dragging you down. Because, well, I'm here sharing very vulnerable things about my experience, and it does help. So I encourage you to do the same. And well, I have made more videos in this series of my unpopular opinions. Please check them out. They're pretty cool, I would say. I'm very proud of them. I have made videos about friendship, love, romantic relationships, people pleasing, parent pleasing, something that is not really commonly talked about. Friend zone, I have two videos about that. Polyamory, it's a very nice, very triggering topic, one of my most favorite videos. um Having a crush, Valentine's Day, my relationship fears and envy are the two recent videos. And well, yeah, they are more personal than all the previous ones. Oh, breakups as well. I have one of those. And maybe I forgot to mention some of them, but check them out on my channel. I'm really proud of them. And well, it they have triggered some people. They have expanded to the world for some people. And again, the comment section became a safe place for people to share their opinions too. So feel free to share whatever you think. And yeah, remember that you're not alone. And well, sometimes the only way from the bottom is to go up. Uh, and I hope that the things that I shared here have been helpful. And I cannot guarantee that depression is not going to come back to you, but you absolutely are able and can um, handle it. And you can get better. And you are never alone. If you feel like you're alone, just go online. Go online, start a YouTube channel, maybe, or TikTok or something, and you'll see that you are not alone. And yeah, there are also hotlines and everything, so look that up in your area if you need to, um, because you can get help, but sometimes you have to ask for it. Don't expect people to read minds. All right, well, have a nice day, night, whatever part of the day you're watching this, and feel free to share whatever is on your mind.